There's a moment it happens, no fight, no dramatic ending. No conversation where you finally said enough, you just stopped. Stopped texting first, stopped checking in. Stopped being the one who showed up every time, while others showed up sometimes. And the quietest part, nobody noticed you were gone. Psychology doesn't call that giving up, it calls it survival. The 5 reasons behind it, especially the 5th, might be the most honest thing you've ever heard about yourself. This is Science Site Daily. Today, we explore the psychology of why deeply caring people quietly disappear. The first reason is the one that lives in your chest but has no name. You were the anchor, the one people called at 2 a.m. Remembering birthdays, checking in after hard days, holding space for everyone's chaos. While yours stayed neatly folded, tucked away where no one could see it. Dr. Shelley Taylor identified a stress response most textbooks ignore: 10 and befriend. They regulate anxiety by caring for others. It sounds beautiful, and in many ways, it is. But here's what nobody tells you about that system: it runs on reciprocity. It was never built to operate as a one-way street indefinitely. When you give, and the energy never returns, that system doesn't just slow down, it collapses. What looks like withdrawal is your nervous system waving a white flag on the inside. That's not laziness. That's not coldness. That's a caregiver running on fumes, still smiling so no one worries. Now here's where neuroscience says something that should stop you mid-scroll. Your brain registers rejection as physical pain. Researcher Naomi Eisenberger at UCLA ran a study where participants played a digital ball-tossing game. At some point, without warning, the other players just stopped throwing the ball to them. The scans showed something extraordinary. The part of the brain that activated, the anterior cingulate cortex, the exact same neural region that processes physical pain, the same region that lights up when you break a bone. Your brain does not distinguish between a broken arm and a broken bond. Social exclusion is a real injury. So when you stopped reaching out, when your mind started treating connection like a threat, it wasn't being dramatic. It was learning from its own damage. But where did that damage begin? Psychiatrist John Bowlby mapped attachment theory: how caregivers respond to us in childhood. This becomes the emotional operating system we run on for the rest of our lives. Some people develop what's known as an avoidant attachment style. They want connection desperately. But at some point, maybe at 7, maybe at 12, reaching out stopped feeling safe. Vulnerability was met with silence, or worse, punishment. The brain built a wall, and called it a personality. Don't need people too much. You'll only be disappointed. You didn't choose that belief. A child chose it. A child who was trying to survive, and that child's strategy followed you into every relationship you've had since. There's a clinical term, alexithymia, that translates from Greek as no words for feelings. It doesn't mean you feel nothing. People with alexithymia often feel everything. They just can't find language for it. The emotion arrives like weather, overwhelming and formless. And when someone asks what's wrong, the honest answer would take 3 hours and still wouldn't be accurate. So you say nothing, not to deceive, but because the dictionary you were given doesn't have the right words. And here's the quiet tragedy of that: if you can't name what you feel, you can't ask for what you need. If you can't ask for what you need, you stop reaching out, not because the desire isn't there, but because the bridge between inner experience and human language was never fully built. Now the 5th reason, and this one asks something of you. Your nervous system has 2 ways of going quiet. From the outside, they look identical. From the inside, they feel nothing alike. The first is conscious withdrawal. You feel present, clear, grounded. You're choosing your energy deliberately. You're not punishing anyone, you're protecting yourself. That is not isolation. That is emotional maturity. The second is involuntary shutdown. You feel numb, dissociated, like you're watching your own life from behind glass. You didn't choose this quiet. Your nervous system chose it for you, because the environment was no longer safe. One of these is strength, the other is a signal. And the most important psychological question you might ask yourself today is this: am I choosing my silence, or am I imprisoned by it? Because there is a profound difference between a person who decides not to reach out and a person who has forgotten they're allowed to. Here's what the research inside self-determination theory tells us, work pioneered by Deci and Ryan. Humans have 3 core psychological needs: autonomy, competence, relatedness. When people hear that you've stopped reaching out, they assume you've abandoned the third one, that you've given up on connection. But look at the whole picture. You didn't give up on connection. You recalibrated who deserves access to yours. You stopped pouring yourself into people who held out empty cups. You started asking, maybe for the first time, whether the relationships in your life were mutual. That's not avoidance. That is the quiet, uncomfortable, necessary work of someone learning their own worth. You didn't stop reaching out because you became cold. You stopped because your nervous system had archived every unanswered text, every one-sided effort, every time you showed up in full, and they showed up halfway, or not at all. You didn't stop caring. You stopped pretending it didn't hurt. And that is not something to fix. That is something to finally, fully understand. If this video named something you've been carrying quietly, you're not alone, and you're not broken. Subscribe to Science Daily, because there's more psychology behind who you are than you've ever been told. And if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed when people unexpectedly show up at your door, even people you love, the psychological reason behind it is far more fascinating than you might think. I'll see you there. Science Daily, understanding the mind that shaped you.